Kang Jiho stared out the window of the transport ship and watched the stars blur past. 15 years. That was how long humans had been fighting the Valoran Empire. 15 years of death and destruction. He was tired. Everyone was tired. "We're approaching their flagship," the pilot announced. Jiho straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. He was a diplomat now, but he had been a soldier once. He knew what war looked like up close. Admiral Park Nari stood beside him. She was his commander and one of the few people who still believed peace was possible. "Remember, Jiho, just talk, listen, find out what they want." "Yes, Admiral," Jiho replied. The Valoran flagship was massive. It made their human transport look like a small toy. The ship was silver and purple, covered in strange symbols that glowed softly. Jiho had studied Valoran culture for months, but seeing their technology in person still amazed him. They docked, and the airlock opened. Jiho stepped through with his small team. His best friend, Choi Hyan, walked beside him. Hyan was a tactical advisor, smart and quick. If anything went wrong, Hyan would get them out. Valoran guards met them. They were tall, almost 7 feet, with pale blue skin and silver eyes. They wore armor that seemed to flow like liquid metal. They did not speak, just gestured for the humans to follow. The hallways were beautiful. Purple lights ran along the walls. The floor was smooth like glass. Everything felt ancient and powerful. Jiho realized that the Valorans had been traveling the stars for thousands of years, while humans had barely left their own solar system a century ago. They entered a large chamber. At the far end sat Queen Ressa on a throne made of crystalline material. She was young, much younger than Jiho expected. She looked about 28 in human years, though he knew Valorans aged differently. She had long silver hair and wore robes that shimmered with embedded lights. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent. Around her stood her war council. Jiho recognized Prince Vorath from intelligence briefings. He was the queen's cousin, tall and imposing with a cruel smile. There were generals and nobles, all watching the humans with cold expressions. "Queen Ressa," Jiho said, bowing slightly as he had been taught. "Thank you for seeing us." "Kang Jiho," the queen replied. Her voice was clear and strong. She spoke perfect human language. "You come seeking peace. Yet your fleets still fire upon my ships." "Your ships fire upon ours as well, Your Majesty," Jiho said carefully. "That is why we are here. To stop the firing." Prince Vorath laughed. "Humans are weak. You sue for peace because you are losing." Hyan tensed beside Jiho, but Jiho remained calm. "We are not losing, Prince Vorath. Neither are you. That is the problem. This war has no winner. Only death." The queen raised her hand, silencing Vorath. "Speak, diplomat. What does Earth offer?" For the next hour, they negotiated. Jiho proposed ceasefire zones, trade agreements, prisoner exchanges. The queen listened, asked intelligent questions, and seemed genuinely interested. But every proposal was shot down by her council. Prince Vorath found flaws in everything. The generals demanded concessions that Earth could never give. Jiho watched the queen carefully. He saw something in her eyes: frustration, sadness. She wanted this to end too. But she was trapped somehow. The meeting ended with no progress. As Jiho and his team were escorted out, the queen spoke one more time. "Perhaps tomorrow we will find better terms." Back on the transport, Hyan shook his head. "They don't want peace. Did you see Vorath? He was smiling every time we failed." "The queen wants peace," Jiho said quietly. "What makes you think that?" Admiral Park Nari asked. "The way she looks at her council. The way she tensed when Vorath spoke." "She's not in control, Admiral." "They are," Nari frowned. "That doesn't help us. If she can't make peace, even if she wants to, we're back to fighting. That night, Jiho couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the young queen on her throne, surrounded by warmongers and profiteers. He thought about the millions who had died in this stupid war. He thought about his own family back on Earth, living in fear of Valoran attacks. There had to be a way. Hyan came to his quarters. "I've been digging into Valoran politics," he said, sitting down. "It's worse than we thought. Prince Vorath controls the military contracts. The war makes him rich. Half the council profits from weapon sales. They'll never vote for peace. Can't the queen overrule them?" Jiho asked. "Technically, yes. But Valoran law is complicated. If she acts against the council without strong support, they can call for her removal. She's politically weak. She inherited the throne when her parents died 3 years ago. The war started before she was queen." Jiho stood and paced. "So she's stuck. She can't end a war she didn't start without appearing weak. And if she appears weak, she loses the throne." "Exactly," Hyan said. "Then we need to make peace look strong," Jiho said. "We need to give her political cover." "How?" Jiho didn't answer. He didn't know yet. But an idea was forming in his mind. A crazy, impossible idea. He would need more information first. He would need to understand Valoran culture better. And he would need courage. Because if his idea worked, it would change everything. And if it failed, it might start a war that would never end. The next morning, Jiho requested another meeting with the queen. The second meeting went no better than the first. Prince Vorath and the War Council rejected every proposal. Earth's representative, Li Doyan, grew frustrated. He was a politician from Earth's government, sent to observe the negotiations. He kept pushing for traditional peace treaties that the Valorants would never accept. "You're wasting time," Doyan told Jiho after the meeting. "These aliens don't want peace. We should return home and prepare for total war." "That's exactly what Vorath wants," Jiho replied. "We play into his hands. Then what do you suggest?" Doyan demanded. Jiho didn't answer. He was watching Queen Ressa through the chamber window. She stood alone on a balcony, looking at the stars. She looked lonely. That night, Han Yuna came to see Jiho. She was an intelligence officer, one of the best. She carried a datapad filled with information. "I found something interesting," she said. "Tell me," Jiho said. Yuna pulled up files on Valoran history and culture. "Look at this. Valoran royal marriages are sacred in their culture. When a queen or king marries, it's not just personal. It's a state event. And here's the important part. By ancient law, if a Valoran ruler marries someone from another civilization, all hostilities with that civilization must cease immediately." Jiho leaned forward. "Immediately? No negotiations?" "It's automatic. The law is thousands of years old. It was created to prevent wars when the Valoran Empire was expanding. If a ruler married someone from a conquered world, that world became part of the empire peacefully. The law still stands. Has it ever been used?" Hyan asked. "Not in over 1,000 years," Yuna admitted. "But it's still valid. I checked with 3 different sources." Jiho's mind raced. This was it. This was the answer. But it was insane. Completely insane. "You're thinking about it, aren't you?" Hyan said, reading his friend's face. "You're actually thinking about marrying the alien queen." "It would work," Jiho said slowly. "It's crazy," Doyan said, who had joined them. "Earth will never approve. You can't just marry yourself off like a piece in a game." "Why not?" Jiho asked. "If it saves millions of lives, why not?" "Because it's... Diane struggled for words. "It's not how diplomacy works. Traditional diplomacy isn't working," Jiho shot back. We've been negotiating for weeks. Before that, we fought for 15 years. How many more people have to die before we try something different?" Admiral Park Nari was informed of the plan. She listened carefully, then sat in silence for a long time. Finally, she spoke. The political fallout would be enormous. Earth's government would fight this. Half the population would call you a traitor, and the other half would call him a hero, Hyan said. "If it works, the Queen has to agree first," Nari said. "That might be the hardest part." Jiho requested a private meeting with Queen Ressa. It took 3 days to arrange. Finally, he was brought to a small garden aboard the flagship. It was beautiful, filled with plants from dozens of worlds. The Queen stood among purple flowers, wearing simpler clothes than her formal robes. "You requested privacy, Kang Jiho," she said. "My council was suspicious. They think you plan to assassinate me." "I planned something far more dangerous, Your Majesty," Jiho said. She turned to face him fully. "Speak." Jiho took a deep breath. "I know you want to end this war. I know your council prevents it. I know you're trapped by politics and profit and the expectations of your position." The Queen's expression didn't change, but her eyes showed surprise. "You are bold to speak so plainly to a monarch." "I don't have time for pretty words, Your Majesty. People are dying while we play games." He stepped closer. "I found a way to end the war immediately. A way that gives you absolute legal authority. A way that makes you look strong, not weak." "I'm listening," she said quietly. "If you wed me, I can stop the war," Jiho said. The Queen stared at him. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she laughed. Not a mocking laugh, but one of genuine surprise. "You know our laws." "I do," Jiho confirmed. "It would work legally," she admitted. "The ancient marriage law would override my council completely. They couldn't stop it without breaking sacred tradition." She walked among the flowers, thinking. But politically, it would be seen as weakness. The Queen who married a human to escape war. "Not if we control the narrative," Jiho said. "What if it's not escape? What if it's strategy? What if you're not surrendering, but expanding? Bringing humanity into the Valoran sphere through alliance rather than conquest?" The Queen stopped walking. "Explain." "Humans have advantages," Jiho said. "We adapt quickly. We innovate. We've matched your 1,000-year-old empire in barely a century of spaceflight. What if you present the marriage as recognizing that strength? As gaining access to human creativity and determination? A fusion alliance," the Queen said slowly. "Exactly. You're not ending the war because you're weak. You're ending it because you're smart enough to see the value in partnership." The Queen studied him. "You would do this? Marry someone you barely know? Leave your world behind? To save millions of lives?" "Yes," Jiho said simply. "Wouldn't you?" She smiled slightly. "I already am considering it, am I not?" She walked closer to him. "You are either very brave or very foolish, Kang Jiho." "Probably both," he admitted. "If we do this, it must be convincing," she said. "My council will look for any excuse to call it a sham. Prince Vorath will fight it with everything he has. Then we give them a show they can't refuse," Jiho said. "We make this look like the diplomatic victory of the century for both our peoples." The Queen extended her hand. It was a human gesture, one she had learned. "I accept your proposal, Kang Jiho, but know this. If you betray me, if this is some human trick, I will destroy your entire world." Jiho took her hand. Her skin was cool to the touch, but her grip was strong. "If I betray you, Your Majesty, you'll have to wait in line. Half of humanity will want to kill me first. Then we are in agreement," she said. "Let us save both our peoples from this endless war." The impossible gambit had begun. The announcement hit both civilizations like a bomb. Queen Ressa and Kang Jiho would marry in a formal fusion alliance ceremony. The reactions were explosive. On Earth, half the population called Jiho a traitor. The other half called him a genius. News networks argued day and night. Politicians demanded investigations. Admiral Park Nari faced intense pressure to recall him immediately. "He's gone rogue," one Earth senator declared. "We can't let one man decide the fate of humanity." But the damage was done. The announcement was public. Backing out now would look weak for both sides. Quan Taiyang arrived on the Velaran flagship 3 days later. He was Earth's best media strategist, a man who could sell ice to Arctic colonists. He immediately went to work with Jiho and the Queen. "We need to control every aspect of this narrative," Taiyang said, pacing in the Queen's private chambers. "Every image, every word, every gesture. This isn't just a wedding. It's political theater." Song Inha joined them as well. She was a cultural liaison who'd spent years studying Velaran traditions. "The ceremony must honor both cultures equally," she explained. "If it looks too human, the Velarans will reject it. Too Velaran, and Earth will see it as surrender." The Queen listened carefully. "What do you propose?" "A hybrid ceremony," Inha said. "Velaran vows mixed with human traditions. Your purple flowers alongside earth roses. Your crystal ceremony lights with our candles. Everything balanced." For weeks, they planned. Jiho and the Queen held public meetings, carefully staged to show mutual respect and growing partnership. Taiyang made sure every meeting was broadcast across both civilizations. Slowly, carefully, public opinion began to shift. "Look at them," one human broadcaster said. "They're actually talking like equals." "The Queen smiles when she speaks to him," a Velaran noble observed. "Perhaps there is wisdom in this alliance." But not everyone was convinced. Prince Vorath was furious. He gathered the war council in secret. "This marriage is a disaster," he told them. "The human makes her weak. We must stop it." "The ancient law is clear," one general said nervously. "We cannot oppose a royal marriage without breaking sacred tradition." "Then we make it impossible," Vorath said coldly. "An accident. An attack. Blame human extremists. The wedding cannot happen if there is no groom." However, not all Velaran military leaders agreed with Vorath. General Kex was one of them. He was an old soldier, scarred from decades of fighting. He had grown tired of war. Late one night, he requested a private meeting with Queen Ressa. "Your Majesty," Kex said, kneeling, "I come to offer support. Not all of us want this war to continue." The Queen looked surprised. "You oppose Prince Vorath?" "I oppose death," Kex said simply. "I have lost 3 sons to this war. My soldiers are exhausted. If this marriage brings peace, you have my loyalty and my armies. Vorath will call you a traitor," the Queen warned. "Let him," Kex said. "I've been called worse. But I'm not alone, Your Majesty. Many officers feel as I do. We will protect you and the human during the ceremony." "Thank you, General," the Queen said. "You may have just saved both our lives." Kex was right to offer protection. 1 week before the wedding, assassins attacked. Jiho was walking through the flagship's corridors with Hyan when energy blasts lit up the hallway. Hyan pushed Jiho behind a pillar as armed attackers advanced. "Human extremists!" One attacker shouted in accented human language. But Jiho noticed their weapons were Velaran military grade. This was Vorath's work, staged to look like human terrorists. Alarms blared. Velaran guards rushed to help, but the attackers were well trained. Jiho and Hyan fought back with whatever they could find. Hyan grabbed a maintenance tool and used it as a weapon. Jiho, remembering his soldier days, moved with quick precision. Queen Ressa herself arrived with her personal guard. She saw Jiho bleeding from a wound on his arm, fighting for his life. Something changed in her eyes. She stepped forward, her robes flowing. "Stop," she commanded. Her voice echoed with authority. "Anyone who harms this human harms me directly." The attackers hesitated. This wasn't part of their plan. The Queen's public protection of Jiho was a declaration of commitment stronger than any words. "Seize them," the Queen ordered her guards. 3 attackers were captured. 1 escaped. Later interrogation would reveal Vorath's involvement, but he would deny everything. The Queen personally tended to Jiho's wound. "You fought well," she said. "Like a soldier." "I was a soldier once," Jiho admitted. "Before I became a diplomat. A warrior and a peacemaker," she said softly. "Perhaps that is why you thought of something no one else did. Or I'm just desperate," Jiho said, managing a smile despite the pain. "We're both desperate," the Queen said. "But desperation can lead to courage." Lee Doyan, Earth's representative, was furious about the attack. He stormed into Jiho's quarters. "This proves it's too dangerous. We should cancel everything and return to Earth." "That's exactly what Vorath wants," Jiho said. "We cancel now, and the war never ends." "You almost died," Doyan shouted. "People die every day in this war," Jiho shot back. "At least I'm trying to stop it." Admiral Park Nari contacted them from Earth. Her face on the video screen showed strain. "The attack has made Earth's government nervous, but it's also made them angry. How dare the Velerans attack our diplomat?" She sighed. "The politics are shifting in your favor, Jiho. People see you as brave now. The wedding has support from 60% of Earth's population. And the other 40%? Jiho asked. "They still think you're crazy," Nari said with a slight smile. "They might be right." As the wedding day approached, tension grew. Both civilizations watched nervously. This wasn't just a marriage anymore. It was a test. Could 2 species that had killed each other for 15 years actually join together? Taiyang worked night and day on the presentation. Inha finalized every ceremonial detail. General Kex quietly positioned loyal troops throughout the flagship. Hyan organized security from the human side. The Queen and Jiho met privately the night before the ceremony. They stood in the garden where he had first proposed this insane plan. "Are you afraid?" the Queen asked. "Terrified," Jiho admitted honestly. "You? More than I've ever been," she said. "I've faced enemy fleets. I've navigated council politics. But tomorrow, I marry a man from another species to save both our worlds." "The pressure is crushing," Jiho finished. "I know." They stood in silence for a moment. "If we succeed," the Queen said slowly, "this will change everything. Not just the war. The entire future of both our peoples. And if we fail?" Jiho asked. "Then we fail spectacularly," she said with a slight smile. "At least we tried." "To trying," Jiho said. "To peace," the Queen replied. "Tomorrow would decide everything." The day of the wedding arrived. The ceremony would be broadcast live to both Earth and every Veleron world. Billions would watch. History would be made or broken in the next few hours. The flagship's main ceremonial hall had been transformed. Purple Veleran banners hung beside blue Earth flags. Crystal lights mixed with human candles. Flowers from both worlds created a stunning garden path. It was beautiful and strange, a perfect symbol of what they were attempting. Jiho wore a hybrid uniform. It combined human formal military dress with Veleran ceremonial elements. He felt ridiculous and important at the same time. Hyan helped him adjust the collar. "You ready for this?" Hyan asked. "No," Jiho said honestly. "But we're doing it anyway." Admiral Park Nari attended as Earth's official representative. She had fought hard to get Earth's government to approve this. Now she stood in the front row, her expression carefully neutral. Beside her sat Lee Doyon, still disapproving but present. Valoran nobles filled the other side. Some looked curious. Others looked angry. Prince Vorath stood among them, his face a mask of cold rage barely concealed. General Kex and his officers surrounded the hall, watching carefully. Song Inha began the ceremony with words in both languages. Today we witness not just a marriage, but the joining of two peoples. What was divided by war becomes united by choice. Music played, a blend of human and Valoran instruments creating something new and haunting. Then Queen Ressa entered Dod. She was magnificent. Her gown combined Valoran crystal weaving with human silk. It shifted colors as she moved, purple to blue to silver. Her silver hair was adorned with both Valoran gems and earth diamonds. She looked like she belonged to both worlds and neither. Jiho forgot to breathe for a moment. This was really happening. The queen walked down the aisle alone. In Valoran tradition, rulers walked without escort to show their independence. She reached the platform where Jiho stood and faced him. Up close, he could see she was nervous too. That helped somehow. The ceremony proceeded with careful precision. Valoran vows were spoken first. The queen's voice was clear and strong. I bind myself to you across the stars. What you are becomes part of what I am. Your people become my people. Then, human vows. Jiho spoke words adapted from Earth traditions. I promise to stand beside you, to honor both our peoples, to work for peace all our days. They exchanged rings. The Valoran ring was made of crystal that glowed softly. The human ring was platinum with an embedded earth diamond. Symbols of two worlds joining. Quan Taiyang watched from the broadcast booth, monitoring reactions across both civilizations. Early numbers were good. People were actually watching with hope rather than anger. This might work. But Prince Vorath had other plans. Just as the ceremony reached the final vows, explosions rocked the hall. Smoke filled the air. Screams echoed. Armed soldiers burst through the side doors, wearing Vorath's colors. Ko! General Keck shouted, drawing his weapon. Protect the queen! Chaos erupted. Vorath's soldiers fired on the royal guards. Guests scattered. Admiral Park Nari pulled her sidearm, protecting Earth's delegation. Hyam grabbed Jiho and tried to pull him to safety, but Jiho refused to move. If I run now, everything fails. Jiho shouted over the noise. The queen stood her ground as well, her guards forming a circle around her. Prince Vorath himself stepped forward, energy weapon in hand. This marriage is treason, Vorath declared. You weaken our empire for these humans. I claim the throne by right of strength. You claim nothing. General Kex roared, his forces engaging Vorath's soldiers. You break sacred law. The fighting was intense but brief. Kex had planned well. His loyal troops outnumbered Vorath's forces. Many of Vorath's own soldiers surrendered quickly when they realized the coup was failing. They were soldiers, not traitors, and they had been lied to about the queen's orders. But Vorath himself was dangerous. He fought his way toward the queen, determined to kill her if he couldn't take the throne. His energy weapon fired, barely missing Ressa's head. Jiho didn't think. He just moved. Years of combat training took over. He tackled the queen out of the line of fire, covering her with his own body as the blast struck the wall behind them. Hyan and several human security personnel engaged Vorath from another angle. The prince was skilled, but he was alone now. His coup had failed. His soldiers were surrendering. He had nothing left but rage. You will regret this. Vorath screamed at the queen. You choose humans over your own kind. I choose peace over war, the Queen shouted back, standing up with Jiho's help. I choose life over death. You choose only profit and power. General Kex's soldiers surrounded Vorath. He was trapped. For a moment, it looked like he would fight to the death. Then he saw the cameras still broadcasting. Millions were watching his failed coup. His reputation was destroyed. Slowly, he lowered his weapon. Arrest him, the Queen commanded. For treason, for murder, for breaking every sacred law of our people. As Vorath was led away in restraints, the hall slowly calmed. The smoke cleared. The injured were helped away. The ceremony platform was damaged, but still standing. Song Inha stepped forward bravely. The ceremony is not complete, she announced. Does the Queen wish to finish? Queen Ressa looked at Jiho. They were both covered in dust and minor wounds. Their fancy clothes were torn. It was hardly the dignified wedding they had planned. Yes, the Queen said firmly. We finish this. They returned to the platform. The remaining guests, both human and Velaran, watched in stunned silence. What they were witnessing was no longer just political theater. It was real courage. Inha spoke the final words. By the ancient law of our people and the sacred traditions of humanity, I declare this union complete. What was separate is now joined. Let peace follow where war once ruled. Jiho and the Queen sealed the marriage with a kiss, as human tradition required. It was brief and formal, but it was binding. The marriage was legal. The war was over. The hall erupted in cheers, surprising everyone. Velaran nobles who had been skeptical joined the celebration. Human delegation members smiled with relief. Even the camera crews cheered. Admiral Park Nari approached them as the celebration grew. Congratulations, she said, and she actually meant it. You just did the impossible. The coup almost ruined everything, Jiho said. No, the Queen said, taking his hand. The coup proved everything. You protected me without hesitation. My general stood against one of his own princes for peace. Both our peoples fought together to defend this union. She looked out at the mixed crowd of humans and Velarans celebrating together. This is what we needed. Proof that the alliance is real. She was right. Across both civilizations, the story spread. The human who took an energy blast for the alien queen. The queen who stood firm against a coup. The general who chose peace over loyalty to his own kind. The wedding that survived an attack. By nightfall, the ceasefire was official. Fleet commanders on both sides received the order. Stop fighting immediately. The war was over. 15 years of death ended with a wedding that almost failed, but didn single quotes T. in his cell. Prince Vorath raged. But no one was listening anymore. The war he had profited from was finished, and he would face justice for his crimes. The Queen and Jiho stood together on the flagship's observation deck, watching as both human and Velaran fleets began to stand down. What happens now? Jiho asked. Now, the Queen said, we build the peace, together. The ceasefire held, but peace was fragile. Ending a war was easy compared to building trust after 15 years of killing. Jiho and Queen Ressa knew the hard work was just beginning. They established the first fusion colony 3 months after the wedding. It was built on a neutral moon, halfway between Earth and the Velaran homeworld. The colony combined human engineering with Velaran technology. Humans and Velarans would live there together, working side by side. This is where we prove the alliance is real, Jiho told the first group of colonists. Both species stood together, nervous but hopeful. Not through words, but through action. Space Orcs arrived to document everything. She was a historian, young and enthusiastic. She carried cameras and recording equipment everywhere. This is the most important moment in both our histories, she said. Future generations need to see how it really happened. The fusion colony grew quickly. Human farmers taught Valoran scientists about Earth crops. Valoran engineers showed humans advanced shield technology. Children from both species played together, learning each other's languages naturally. It wasn't always easy. There were arguments and misunderstandings. But slowly, carefully, it worked. Admiral Nari visited the colony and was surprised by what she saw. "They're actually becoming friends," she observed, watching a human child teach a Valoran child how to play catch. "Friendship is easier than hate," Jiho said. "Hate takes effort. Friendship just needs opportunity." But not everyone accepted the new peace. Small groups of extremists on both sides refused to let go of the war. Human radicals claimed the Queen had enslaved Jiho. Valoran hardliners said the humans were corrupting their culture. Prince Voros' trial became a spectacle. He stood before judges from both species, accused of treason, murder, and attempted coup. The evidence was overwhelming. But Vorath was clever. He used his trial as a platform. "I fought to preserve our way of life," Vorath declared in court. "This human has bewitched our queen. The fusion colonies are just human invasion by another name." Some people listened. Vorath supporters began organizing. 6 months after the wedding, they made their move. A small fleet of stolen Valoran ships, commanded by Vorath's most loyal followers, attacked one of the fusion colonies. They had broken Vorath out of prison during a transport. Now he led them in one final attempt to restart the war. The attack came without warning. Energy weapons struck the colony's shields. People ran for shelters. Both human and Valoran families huddled together in fear. On the flagship, Jiho and the Queen received the emergency transmission. They looked at each other and nodded. They knew what they had to do. "Prepare my command ship," the Queen ordered. "And prepare a strike team," Jiho added. "We end this together." Admiral Nari objected. "You can't go into combat. You're the Queen and the Prince Consort. You're too important." "That's exactly why we must go," the Queen said. "If we send others to fight our battles, what kind of leaders are we?" General Kex agreed. "The soldiers need to see you stand together. Both species need to see their leaders won't hide while others die." They arrived at the fusion colony within hours. The Queen's command ship was powerful, but Vorath's stolen fleet was desperate and dangerous. The battle began immediately, but something remarkable happened. The colony's defense forces fought together perfectly. Human pilots flew alongside Valoran warriors. They had trained together for months. They knew each other's tactics. They trusted each other. Jiho commanded the tactical response while the Queen handled fleet coordination. They worked in perfect sync, each compensating for the other's weaknesses. Where Jiho was aggressive, the Queen was patient. Where the Queen was strategic, Jiho was creative. Together, they were formidable. "Target their command ship," Jiho said, analyzing the battle patterns. "Vorath is there. He's controlling the whole attack." "Agreed," the Queen said. "But we take him alive, if possible. His followers need to see him surrender, not die a martyr." General Kex led the assault on Vorath's command ship. The fighting was intense. Vorath's soldiers were fanatics, willing to die for their cause. But Kex's forces had something they didn't. Purpose beyond destruction. Hyan accompanied the boarding team. He fought through corridors until they reached the command deck. There, Prince Vorath stood surrounded by the last of his loyal guards. "You cannot stop the truth," Vorath shouted. "This piece is a lie." "The only lie is yours," came the Queen's voice over the communication system. "Your war profited you while our people died. Your pride mattered more than their lives." Jiho's voice joined hers. "Look at your own soldiers, Vorath. Half of them are surrendering. They're tired of fighting for your greed." It was true. Many of Varath's own people were laying down their weapons. They had followed him out of loyalty, but that loyalty was breaking. The new peace had shown them something better than endless war. Varath's face twisted with rage and despair. He raised his weapon, but General Kex was faster. The old soldier disarmed him with one quick move. "It's over," Kex said simply. Varath collapsed to his knees. His rebellion had failed completely. Without his charisma and lies, his followers had no reason to fight. The Queen and Jiho boarded the captured ship together. They stood before Varath, side by side. To the soldiers watching, they looked like they belonged together. Different species, but united in purpose. "Your war is finished," the Queen said to Varath. "The peace will continue." "You're a fool," Varath spat. "Humans will betray you eventually. It's their nature." Jiho knelt down to Varath's level. "Maybe we will. Maybe we'll fail. But we're gonna try. That's what makes us human. We try impossible things. And sometimes we succeed." Varath had no answer to that. He was taken back to prison, this time to a facility built jointly by both species. He would spend the rest of his life watching the peace he tried to destroy continue to grow. The battle had one unintended benefit. Humans and Velerans had fought together, protected each other, shed blood for a common cause. The fusion colonies were no longer experiments. They were home to thousands of both species, living as neighbors, friends, even family. 5 years passed. The changes were remarkable. 3 more fusion colonies had been established. Trade between Earth and Veleran worlds flourished. A joint university was founded, teaching both human and Veleran knowledge. Young people from both species studied together, fell in love, married, started families. Jiho and Queen Ressa had a daughter. She was born on the first fusion colony, a symbol of the new peace. She had her mother's silver eyes and her father's dark hair. She was beautiful and perfect, belonging fully to both species. They named her Hannah, a human name meaning flower, and gave her the Valoran title of Starbridge for connecting 2 worlds. Admiral Park Nari held the baby during the naming ceremony. She was crying, which surprised everyone who knew the tough military commander. "I never thought I'd see this," she admitted. "A child of 2 species. Living proof that the war is really over." Baisori recorded everything. Her historical documentation of the fusion colonies had become required viewing in schools across both civilizations. Children grew up seeing humans and Velerans working together as normal, not strange. On the 5th anniversary of the wedding, a grand celebration was held on the original fusion colony. Thousands attended. Jiho and the Queen stood together, watching the festivities. "Do you regret it?" the Queen asked. "Giving up your old life?" "Every day I wake up and every day I realize I'd do it again," Jiho said. He looked at their daughter playing with other children, human and Veleran mixed together. "We did something impossible. We took hate and turned it into hope." "You took an insane risk," the Queen corrected with a smile. "So did you," Jiho pointed out. "Marrying a human you barely knew. Trusting me to help you end the war. I trusted that you wanted peace as much as I did," she said. "I was right." General Kex approached them, now retired and living on the fusion colony. "I wanted to thank you both," he said. "My grandchildren are growing up without war. That's because of what you started. It's because of people like you who supported us," the Queen said. "You risked everything to stand with us." "It was worth it," Kex said simply. As the celebration continued, Jiho reflected on the journey. It had started with a desperate proposal in a garden. "If you wed me, I can stop the war." Those words had changed everything. The war had ended not through superior weapons or clever tactics, but through courage and trust. A human willing to sacrifice everything for peace. An alien queen brave enough to defy her own counsel. Soldiers on both sides tired enough of death to try something new. Peace wasn't easy. There were still problems, still people who resented the changes. But the foundation was strong. Two species that had killed each other were now building a future together. Jiho watched his daughter laugh, playing with her friends under alien stars. She would grow up in a universe where cooperation was normal, where different species worked together instead of fighting. That was humanity's real strength, Jiho realized. Not weapons or technology, but the stubborn refusal to accept that things couldn't change. Humans looked at the impossible and said, "Let's try anyway." And sometimes, against all odds, it worked.